Hey, good evening, everybody. Sammy Thunder here. Welcome back to the channel. And tonight is one of my favorite collaboration videos to do. I've done it a number of times with various content creators where we talk about their collection preferences and methods and just their whole psyche of when it comes to the hobby. And I'm very excited tonight to introduce to you John, 3D 80s Kid. If you're familiar with this channel, he is working on a great Hall of Fame project of collecting Hall of Famers from various decades. And so I want to be able to introduce him formally. John, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me, Sammy. It's great to be on your channel. Love watching your stuff. So honored to be invited.
Thank you very much. So we have a lot to get into. As always, with a lot of my videos, the collaboration videos that I've done, these are relatively just kind of go with the flow. The vibe is with that. And so we're just kind of going to go in that direction of just asking questions and just kind of feeding off that. And so we'll touch upon the popular subject with your channel, and the curiosity I think myself and a lot of others have is, what is this Hall of Fame project? And because it's a very unique understanding that you're collecting one Hall of Famer, uh, from their, like, one card from each Hall of Famer throughout their career, just one of from each, and then just trying to stretch it to collect every single Hall of Famer, one card each. But could you break that down a little further?
Yeah. So uh, my goal is focusing on player Hall of Famers. So I don't really care about managers. I think the whole role of manager is slightly overrated in terms of a team succeeding myself. But so, and I've one of the things that's going to make this possible is that I am not doing rookie cards, which has gotten me a lot of attention intentionally, because I did not start collecting vintage cards until the start of 2022. And as most people that would watch this video know, that's at the point where vintage was already going up in price and wasn't the same pricing structure as the folks that had been in the game only a few years earlier, especially for those rookie cards. So, and I look at it as, what is a project that I can have any hope of completing in my lifetime? Because admittedly, 2022, I'm already turning 48 years old that year. How many years do I really even have to collect in? And what is my budget going to be able to stretch to? So, I just did not see, dealing with post-war rookies as that would have been a highly limiting factor of me having any chance with going back in time to the pre-war legends. I mean, I had never really owned any vintage cards of baseball prior to when I started in 2022. Like, literally my childhood collection before that, the oldest card I had was a Dale Murphy rookie card from 77, as he was my childhood hero. So to me, vintage cards were only late 70s at that point. So, and then, I was a full blown hardcore watcher of baseball documentaries. I ate it up when they did all of those back in the day in the 80s. The ESPN networks would show a lot of documentary stuff, or even then the early 90s. I would consume all of those things. I mean, when the Ken Burns baseball came out, that was glorious and that's still something I will watch the whole thing through every year or two. So even when I wasn't collecting baseball cards, I loved the history of baseball. So to be able to now try to get a piece of all of these all-time great players is incredible to me. As a kid, I just saw vintage as untouchable. You know, there were when I stopped collecting previously in 1991. Obviously, there's no eBay. There's one local card show in my small town, or card shop, I mean, and maybe once or twice a year they did a really small card show in like the civic center in the middle of town. I remember going to, and because I don't even remember how I was able to acquire like the entire run of Dale Murphy cards back then. I have no memory of it, but I must have been able to buy them all at the shops or the shows. But it's so crazy how easy it is now to collect what you want with all the various options of eBay. And you know, you've got most mass-produced cards, you know, are just a click away from coming to your house within a week. So it's all, you know, child me would think this is nuts that you could have access to all this stuff. So, but I guess to go back to then starting in vintage, you know, what really got me started at the beginning, the very first card I even bought was this 1960 Topps Willie Mays, as Willie Mays was my dad's favorite player growing up in Northern California. He actually got to visit his backyard and shake his hand in the 80s, as my dad was a utility lineman for the company in the Bay Area. But he worked in his backyard to fix a pole one day. But from there, I just started collecting Hall of Famers from 60 Topps, as I love the set. I love the dual photos. I love the alternating letter colors, the logos. It's just got like everything I would want on a front of a baseball card. So, you know, expanded into collecting most of the Hall of Famers from that year. Intentionally excluded a certain Bob person that they identified there, as I don't want to collect a Bob card because he didn't want to be called Bob. But from there, I went to find a different set that I liked. I mean, that was kind of my focus at first with this project of finding lots of cards from the same set. And I ended up on my next set was 53 Bowman. Once I saw this card, Roy Campanella, I was in love with this photo. And it started me down the path of looking at all kinds of other cards from the set. And I added a few over here in the case behind me. But, and then, you know, moving forward in time a bit, then I started gathering up Hall of Famers from what turned out to be my favorite 70 set, which is 72 Topps. And that's where I got this then Willie Stargell, which, as you can see, I am not like Dylan. So the centering does not bother me when I get a picture this crisp and sweet for a card that cost me in this slab already $20. So, but the fact that I can scoop up really nice looking cards for cheaper prices if they're off centered it is right up my alley. So, but as far as then, you know, keeping track on this whole set, I ended up generating an Excel spreadsheet is how I end up keeping track of what I have. And also then kind of setting myself up for what I was going to target next. Mm-hmm. I just generated the whole thing of 270 player Hall of Famers that we currently have. I subdivided them into different eras. So I have a column that has like modern, vintage, pre-war. Then I have one that I just call early, which is people that are before the T206 set. And then another one that I call Negro League, because they have no major league cards because they never got to be in the major leagues. So, um, and I just kept ticking marks off the list. And where I'm at now on this whole project is I am almost done with what I term vintage, as in I have 3 players left to target on there, which are admittedly at this point going to be more expensive than any card I've purchased yet to this date. Because
who are the 3 players?
it would be Jackie Robinson, Satchel Paige, and Joe DiMaggio. Because with DiMaggio, I'm targeting a Burke Ross. So
Gotcha.
that's
Yeah,
how he
those are
ends up
tough
on the
ones.
vintage side instead of the pre-war. So,
Yeah, I understand.
um, and then I have a card of everything modern. I decided to actually go for. I've never actually shown anybody what I did put together there. I continued the theme of sets I like, and um, I don't have them graded, but I have all the different Hall of Famers in 84 tops
Mm.
ready to go. I really liked that set as far as the top sets go of the 80s. So, and I'm a numbers guy, admittedly. I'm an engineer. So the whole then continuing the 12-year gap, because I went 60, 72, 84. And so even though the set's probably not the prettiest in the 90s, I just went ahead and did 96 for those guys.
Not the worst looking set in the world. I mean, you can arguably come up with some really bad ones. That one actually looks pretty decent.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought
Yeah.
the little mini pictures on it are a little weird.
Oh, well, yeah, that part is not the greatest, but yeah, you
But
take
as
what you can
far as
get.
it being a nice big full color picture of the player, that part's
Yeah.
pretty nice. So, and then the lettering, the way they did that's all right. And they actually have logos in the top right too. So I went
So
with it. But I always did because I actually came back to collecting in 2021 and spent about a year doing basketball Hall of Fame collecting. Uh, until I just didn't find the joy in that anymore. I ended up selling most of them to fund
mm,
my vintage baseball. But I did really like the 2008 design, which is the same in the basketball set with this style here. So I was actually pleased to pick the 2008 baseball card set for those few guys. Some of the newer Hall of Famers, but
right.
um, so I have everything modern, all but 3 vintage, and now I have dove into pre-war, and that is just quite the learning experience. I don't know how much you've dove into it yourself, but there's a lot of sets out
Yeah,
there. You get tongue-tied with all these W numbers when you deal with strip cards. It's
right.
it it takes a lot of time to figure out what's what, which ones actually look decent. And I pulled out a few examples from the more popular sets here, but I've gotten a 39 play ball Lefty Gomez here, which, unlike some folks, it seems the consensus is that the 41 play ball is the more popular based on what I see of prices, but I actually like the black and whites
Yeah,
better. So,
they're very nice. Um, I was going to ask you, when it comes to picking out the card that you want of the Hall of Famer on a given year. We'll take Willie Mays as an example because I think I remember you mentioning that Willie Mays kind of takes priority over other players. I think he's like a PC guy in a way, a PC guy for you.
yeah, I actually
Um,
started PCing Willie Mays before I really figured out what I was doing with the Hall of Fame run. So
So the question I had was the 1960 Willie Mays, was that picked particularly because that was your favorite card of his?
when I first wanted to pick my first vintage card I even purchased, and I decided I wanted a Willie Mays card, I looked through his run and also cross reference it with about how much I would have to spend. And, I did love the 60 design. And also the price point was a lot friendlier than 50s issues. So,
It's a good middle ground. Yeah.
because, he's got, the 60s, and once you get into the mid to late 60s and early 70s, they don't cost bad at all, but they're just not the design appeal on those ones. So
Right. Right. Yeah, it's I think there's some repeated use of, if I remember right, I think there's some repeated photos that were used as well. And so it's and the 1960 is a very unique style looking card of his. Just a great posture and photo. And I mean, we can talk about this all night, but I mean, the 1960 design is definitely unique and stylistic. And so I'm not surprised that you went with that choice. Um, so going forward, I mean, so I guess what is the selection process? Like, you picked out the 72 Stargell because you like the 72 and the 72 design and the set. Was that the reason why the Stargell was picked for that reason, or is there more to it than that?
well, I really did end up with it because I liked the 72 design. And my actual first 72 card was actually the Carl Yastrzemski in that set, which, for him, he was in the 1960 set, but that's a rookie and it's price prohibitive. So, um, I was able to get a 72 Yastrzemski and a 5 for $15. So, um, yes. So,
The price, I mean, the price also kind of factors in a little bit too. Um, so, I mean, there's, as you mentioned, I mean, you look for good opportunities on certain cards to be able to kind of fulfill the project, because I think and tell me if I'm wrong, but people tend to overlook certain cards because of X factors. So, I mean, do you feel as though that's kind of like where these opportunities are really fulfilling for you?
well, yeah, I mean, in post-war especially, almost anything that's not a rookie card is relatively overlooked. And I mean, especially if you're talking more of a marquee player, I'm not, you know, in no part of any of this am I grade specific. I am all about what the photo quality is on the card. So, uh, rounded corners, whatever, chipped edges, whatever, uh, centering. I could care less, really. So, uh, when all I care about is the photo registration and a nice image, then it's good for me to scoop up. And really, once you get below that upper tier of, your Mays, Mantle, Aaron, Clemente type guys, most Hall of Famers, not a rookie, are, not much money at all. So, uh, it's really easy to get a good looking post-war Hall of Famer collection very fast with not that big of a budget if you don't collect rookies. So um, now on the pre-war side, that's when you have to be more careful because everything Hall of Famer pre-war is more of a premium. So
Mhm.
there you've got variations quite a bit with the sets you choose. So your famous set of like 33 Gaudi is going to cost more than the Diamond Stars typically. You know, you've got a few exceptions where the Lefty Grove being card number one is more expensive in a lot of cases. The Jimmy Fox in the Diamond Star set with him in the catcher gear is pretty popular. So those two kind of stick out to me as exceptions, but the rest of the Hall of Famers in that set are like 50% of the cost of a 33 Gaudy uh, in the same grade or less. So, uh, or then like even where I'm going with the 39 play ball is less popular than the 41 play balls when it's not, a rookie person. Uh, or even I've dove a lot lately into the 1920s, and the artistic strip cards are significantly cheaper than the photo cards in that decade. So, your 21 and 22 different, the two different American Carmel sets are pretty fairly expensive for your Hall of Famers there. But the artsy strip cards, you can get Hall of Fame players, in my grades of, 1.5, 1 and authentic is usually where I end up playing with things that are in the 20s or older. And
Right.
you can get them less than $100 when you choose the strip cards versus the photo cards, the art cards versus the photo cards. And then even the more marquee guys are going to be, you can acquire them for in the $200 range or less, even from those sets. I'm not talking Babe Ruth. Obviously, there's Mount Rushmore people, and then there's people, well, like my Walter Johnson, which I've got it right over here. This is a plain days card of an inaugural Hall of Famer
I remember
that
that one you showed on
I
your
got
channel.
for $220 in an auction, and it isn't authentic. But to me, that's what you're going to find with over half of the strip cards, and
Right.
that's just purely by means of how they were separated.
Yeah.
Because people would go to a candy store, a corner store, a movie theater, various places. You'd make your purchase, and based off of what you purchased, they would slice off however many cards you earned. So,
Yeah.
uh, and then the kids would take them home and separate the strip of ones they were given. So, you've got all kinds of irregular cuts, like you see on the side of this one. That's
Mhm.
kind of wonky, and if it doesn't have the little segmented border visible, they give it an authentic. So I'll take these all day.
Yeah. I mean, they're they're tough cards to find in general, and so the opportunities to be able. I saw that one of my buddies had a Mathewson strip card that he was selling at a show, and I've been putting together a Mathewson collection lately, and I kind of am kicking myself for not picking it up, even though I knew it was gonna it was authentic, but it wouldn't grade. But it's one of those things where opportunities, you really have to take advantage of them when it's there. Um, so next question I was curious about is, are a lot of these purchases, are they coming from eBay? Are they coming from going to shows, card shops, Facebook groups, or tell me exactly how you're going about this?
Well, I live in the Pacific Northwest, which for the rest of you in the country is a card desert in terms of vintage. If you go to that, there's a website, I think that's cardshowmap.com
Yes.
that puts the little flags on all the maps.
Yeah,
If you're curious, take a look at that and look at the states of Oregon and Washington
I've seen
and
it. I've
You will
seen it.
see like one or two dots on there ever.
Yeah, it's really skewed towards the Northeast. I will say that. Yeah,
Oh yeah, that
it's
thing is
remarkable.
lit up in the Northeast and like Ohio and stuff. It's I feel jealous of all those of you that live in other parts of the country, and uh yeah, I have zero opportunity for having a cool card show video because we get one that comes once a month to in the area downtown Portland, and they put it inside a dying mall, and it is pathetic. I
Mm,
mean, for someone that's hunting vintage, it's pathetic. The most I'll ever see is two different vendors that don't really have the what I'm looking for, anyways, that even carry vintage. And it's because the big part of the problem here is that we are a Portland Trailblazer town, and so modern basketball is what almost everybody has. um,
yeah.
or it's Pokemon at the card show. So um,
So it sounds like a lot of your purchasing comes from e-sales online.
it I'm been almost 100% eBay to this point. So because yeah, I don't really go for being on Facebook groups or things like that. So
Do you are you doing more of the auctions, or do you just try to go for cards that are like best offer or this price?
well, what I have found in my experience is that to find a best offer in most of the cards I'm going for, you have to be staring at your phone at just the right time for the person to put up an actual reasonable price. Otherwise, those things are snatched instantly because almost everything that's sitting on there as a buy it now is crazy and will
Yeah.
never sell. And I mean, a few times I tried to do a best offer that was an actual reasonable price to those folks, and I've just given up. So um, it's all about auctions for me. And I also try to look for opportunities with those auctions. I look specifically, get excited for ones that end at weird times. So if they end in the middle of the night, I am happy because I am a Gixon.com
That was my
user.
next question. Yeah. I was wondering if you take advantage of those of Gixon, and it sounds like yeah. I mean, I haven't used it yet. I signed up for it, but I don't generally buy a lot of stuff off eBay, off of the auctions. But tell us a little bit. I mean, do you feel like it's been really useful?
It has been highly useful. Quite a few cards you see on my wall were purchased at the lowest price that I've observed on them because of Gixon and because of weird ending auction times. So uh, I went ahead and paid. It's a what, $7 annually
I mean,
for the
yeah, it's nothing.
so because that all that does, then it makes it so you have unlimited bidding ability. So I think if you don't, you're limited to like 5 winning bids a month or something like that. So, um, but
Let me follow it up with this. What was the question I was going to ask? So yes, I can see how easily exciting that it could be when you have Gixon and you're finding a lot of different cards. This is a question from my perspective because I'm always nervous. Like if there's like 4 or 5 cards that I really want, but I can really only get 3 of them. Obviously, I have to you know consider that I can't put bids on all 5 because what happens if I win 4? What happens if I win all 5? Do you If there's that, do you ever find yourself in that scenario? And if you do you have to kind of filter and filter out the ones you definitely don't want and only go for the ones you really do want?
well, uh, I like to. do a thing that Gixon allows you where you create a group and all the different auctions that where you can set it up to where if you win one or two or three, however many you want to win, and then once it reaches that threshold, it will stop
Mm,
bidding on the rest.
that's really cool. I didn't know that. So you can prioritize the auctions you really want to win. And so that's really cool. That's good to know, because then you don't have to worry about like, oh, which one do I pick? Which one do I go with? You could still go with all five as my example, and it will cut you off based on your priorities.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know that. That's probably good to know for others as well. For those that are trying to figure out, like, there's five cards I want, I can only afford three. So that's cool that they set that so that you're not overspending.
And even part of my strategy on learning involves me. I mean, one of the search I look through the most now is just list the only search term is SGC, and then the filter is all the years of pre-war and even 1800s, and I end up looking adding to my watch list tons of things where even I have no intention of buying, but I just want to follow it and see what it sells for. And
Mm,
I mean, I do that with things I'm not even planning to buy anytime soon, just to so I can get a feel for where the market is on all the different sets, the different players, and what I might try, how I might try to pivot what I'm doing, next. So um, I'm all about as much data as I can possibly gather before I actually target something for a real purchase. So
what about I guess pre this goes into pre-war. Obviously, there are some cards that really have very little sales history, and you have to go 5, 10 years back sometimes to see what they went for. So when we're talking about more of the rarer cards that sell, how do you look into that? Because I mean, if you're looking at the analytics, you'll prefer to see analytics from this year and maybe a little bit of early of last year. But what about the rare cards that have no sales history in the past 5 years?
well, I mean, in those cases, because when you're talking a lot of these pre-war sets, there is only somewhere in the neighborhood, in a lot of cases, of 30 or 40 of that particular player that's even graded in existence. And so that's really a case of uh, you kind of have to figure out what the different tiers are of players, because generally you can find somebody within the same tier in the same set that's sold within the 3 month window that you generally can view, like on eBay. So uh, that's very helpful to kind of figure out, especially as a Hall of Fame hunter, who is the upper tier, the next tier, and then approximately then you can figure out where those guys sell for depending on which set you're looking at. So um, yes, there's rarely cases where you can find the exact thing or even the exact grade, because then that's where enough observation, like, well, that one sold in this grade. How can I extrapolate to this one that is actually available for purchase now? So, but fortunately, where I've been playing, most things are only you can hardly only find them in authentic. So the grade variation is not much of a deal, because when you're dealing with strip cards,
Right,
50% or more are authentic. So,
right.
uh, and there is a fairly good magnitude of higher pricing, even if it just gets a one grade, because for whatever reason, people are hung up on having number graded cards. So more power to them, but I'd rather save the money and get the one that says authentic. So, um, in many cases, the authentics look nicer than the ones, especially, and sometimes even the 1.5s or 2s.
Right.
So, um, I didn't show this card. I would much rather be able to spend $108 on this authentic min size than $400 on one that would have a bigger border on the one side and probably be like a 3. So
Right. Do you what that card looking at that card, what do you think about the SGC changing the parameters on their cards on their slabs? Instead of it just showing an A, now it reads authentic, and it describes the why it created the authentic.
I mean, I suppose that's helpful to some people, and I feel like to me that will give me another opportunity because a lot of people don't like evidence of trimming or colored on there with like your T206s, T205, something like that. When they color added is one of the terms that we'll use on there. So basically altered. So
Hmm.
uh, to me, I don't care. Because you know I look at it as if it says A, that means it's awesome, right? But if it bothers people to have that text on there, great, because then might make it a little cheaper for me to buy. So
Right. Interesting. So this is going to be a little bit of a fast forward. From my understanding, you are coming to the national in 2024. Is that right?
that is the plan.
And that's your first one ever, or have you been to them before?
I have never been to a national. I've never been to any card show other than my small hometown show as a child and my pathetic Portland metro experience. So,
How do you feel as though that your online purchasing opportunities, your analytics, all of that taken into account, how do you feel that that's going to translate in the physical space of buying cards at the national? And it's not just, obviously, it's not just your regional or local show. This is the mecca of shows. So, have you given any thought into that?
well, I mean, I'm figuring any card I might target in that environment, I'll already be coming there with the data of what those things have transacted with. My actual plan for the national is pretty bold, I think, on my part, because I've actually stopped purchasing for the last few months. So uh, I am compiling a war chest of funds to bring to national that is going to be my entire what I've been using as a monthly hobby budget. I stopped around the time where I was watching everybody's 2023 national videos spending and am just saving all my money because my goal is to actually purchase a Babe Ruth as my next card to do a check mark on my list. So, um, and for that one, those things rarely, if ever, actually transact on eBay. So I have expanded my realm now into auction sites of what I peruse, which isn't very hard actually. Once you just create the links to all the different ones, because they run just monthly auctions for that type of level of item, as opposed to just a steady stream that eBay has. So uh, I've started tracking the values that Babe Ruth cards transact at and have a particular target in mind. But
Do
there, so
you do you have a particular Babe Ruth card that you are focusing on for the purchase, or are you looking at a variety?
my current dream card that I am targeting to purchase is a 1920 W519 unnumbered Babe Ruth, which is one where it's a tight headshot of him smiling with a sort of navy blue background. Um, uh, that one recently sold in a couple different auctions. There was a authentic that was decently centered for that went for 2,700, and then there was an authentic that was completely one border gone. Uh, you know, that ended up going for 2,200. So I am hoping to be at that lower end when I make my purchase eventually of this card, which on the authentic grade of this, there's somewhere in the vicinity of it's around 80 that are graded in existence. Most of which are PSA. And if I end up, that's the card I end up finding to purchase, I'm going to walk right over to the SGC booth and
Right.
have them fix it for me. So,
That's really cool. And the one, so are you're going to be going for the entire duration?
yeah, I'll be there the whole time. My goal is to find that card on hopefully on the first day, and then kind of chill and hang out with friends the rest of the time, because it's probably going to take most of my budget. And if I do happen to have leftover, I'm probably going to go for getting the either the Burke Ross DiMaggio or the Jackie Robinson would probably be my secondary uh,
Mm.
targets. So
And yeah, that's one thing with the national last year or this past year is two things that I really picked up on is utilizing the other content creators that are there when you're making before making such a big purchase, utilizing their getting their opinion on it and uh, having as many eyes to look at it with you so that they can really if you get a nice rounded assessment. And the second thing is being able to kind of just as you mentioned walk around with them. I remember, was it Friday? I think it was Friday. I was just absolutely drained because obviously a lack of air conditioning and a lot of walking. I was walking with Dom, and Dom was taking me tables that I didn't even ever really looked at, and so it was kind of cool to see what they were collecting, and it really does open up a lot of inspiration for um, maybe changes in your preference in collecting. But so you're staying with a few content creators, is that right?
yeah, getting a house with at least those confirmed to be in there with me right now are Matt at the Card Story with his son, um, uh, Dave Legends of the Dugout with his son, Adam Vintage Sanctuary, Double D Dylan, and I think we've got somebody else confirmed. Oh,
Yeah.
Theo Clemente Collector is going to be with us.
Cool.
Um, I don't know. We can fit, I think, as many as a dozen in the house we picked, but uh,
Yeah.
we want to get it up to at least 10. I think we're up to 6 of us.
Nice.
So
Well, very cool. I mean, it sounds like the direction you're heading in is it's intriguing, especially with your methods and your collecting. And it sounds like the way that you do it is very analytical, and you exhibit a lot of patience in what and how you decide and on what you want to add, and definitely kind of take the opportunities that others don't. So um, I think it's very different from others that I've sat down with and talked with. So it's really interesting. I mean, would you say that's kind of a fair assessment?
yeah, I would say so. I mean, uh, it considering the price differential I see, I feel like the no regard for centering is in a minority opinion for sure. Obviously, the no rookies is a minority opinion. Uh, the you know not caring about number grades in the slightest, authentics, whatever, is a minority opinion.
That
Uh,
window is a lot larger. It's a lot bigger.
Yeah. But it's something where it feels like it's an avenue for me to achieve what I'm trying to achieve. My goal is to tick off as many of those boxes of having all these cards. And the big part of it that I love is that I plan on having them all on the wall. Eventually, eventually it's
Mhm.
going to be uh, as many cases as I need to house all of these cards. And in my current job situation, I work from home now 4 days a week. I get to, this is where I sit for work. So, uh, this is what I get to see when I take a break looking at the computer. So, um, I love it. So,
It's amazing. It's pretty. That's a dream situation for a lot of people. But I want to say, yeah, John, thank you so much for really kind of letting me and others that are watching kind of dive into your world a little bit and really kind of get a bird's eye view in terms of how you go about your collecting, especially with the Hall of Fame project. And also, it's kind of cool to know a little bit more about Gixon. There's a lot of great educational opportunity there, especially with the what is it, the like prioritizing your bids and cutting it off when you've crossed that threshold or when you've met that threshold. That's a really cool fact. Um, one
yeah, if
thing I
anybody
felt,
wants to watch, I actually made a video where I showed it on the screen and walked through how I set things up. So it's
definitely, we'll definitely tag that video so others can check that out. And one thing I failed to mention early on and at the very beginning, and I'm sorry that I failed to mention it, is you are one of the hosts of the For Collectors channel. I think a lot of my viewers have seen it, but in case for those that haven't seen it, yeah, John does host or co-host with three other content creators the For Collectors channel, and I think it's only fair and we should be able to make mention of that. So if you want to talk a little bit about that before we finish.
oh yeah, that's well, it all started with Theo and I started doing live streams together. We were alternating back and forth with those between our two channels. We were reaching a point where we saw we're going to reach our 1 year anniversary soon, and we are within 2 weeks of each other of starting our channel. So we both had our 1 year anniversary in August, and we were thinking, what should we do together to celebrate our 1 year anniversary? And that's where the idea sprang of, let's do a live stream marathon where we invite all these people that are our friends now to do a show on a live stream marathon. And then the thought is, well, how do we host it? Do we make people alternate back and forth every hour between our two channels? Do we have half on one and then the second half on the other? And that's where the wheels started spinning, and we thought maybe we should turn this into something bigger. And that's a new channel became the idea. And then with bringing a new channel, we wanted that channel to be able to have a continuous running flow of content. And the two of us, we both have families, we both have kids. We couldn't guarantee that we're going to be on a live stream every single Sunday. That's been our thing now. And we couldn't guarantee that we're going to produce other videos ourselves between the two of us. So then it's like, let's find some partners, some people that are not already doing their own live stream thing like this, that might want to be a part of something. And that's how we ended up then asking James at Elite Hunters to add to this, and as well as Caesar Pepino Man. So then and now it's the four of us that are equal collaborators on this. Where it's really a channel that is pure collecting, and trying to also bring in as many other voices as we can, other collectors to be a part of things, part of discussions, different collecting topics. And both Theo and I had started doing the interviews with other YouTubers like you're doing here, and we brought that show as now rebranded it. We call it Collector to Collector to keep our whole number fun going there with naming, but with the number two in the middle, just like we have four collectors, the number,
Divided by
four
two.
collectors, the channel, just word fun. But
Absolutely.
so yeah, so we are the four of us working together. We put out a show every Tuesday and Thursday, and then we do a live stream every Sunday. So it's been great so far. The live stream or the launch event went pretty awesome. Had a little minor hitch that you get with doing live programming where someone might have accidentally shut down one of the streams after a few minutes in, but we were covered on that front. But yeah, it's been fun, and we appreciate you coming on and doing your trivia show with us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. That'll be good times.
Yeah. So for collectors, because of the fact that there was a channel that has not produced a video in 12 years that has already taken up the at for collectors, we ended up being at for collectors, the number, then four collectors, like doubled up. So four collectors, FOR in the middle. So
I'll leave I'll leave a link for those that are curious to check out the channel, and they can subscribe and kind of build this community even further. So thank you again, John, so much for taking the time to, I guess, again, let us kind of sink into your brain a little bit to see how you kind of go about collecting, and also thank you for your efforts with the Four Collectors YouTube channel. So appreciate you coming on tonight.
oh, thank you very much for inviting me, Sammy. It's always fun to talk to people about these cards. So good times.
Absolutely. So definitely check out John's channel. 3D 80s Kid, obviously. He has his own channel as well. So definitely worth checking out. And we will catch you soon. So take care, everybody.
Bye.